You're listening to Moving Business Forward Faster, a podcast by the United Nations Global Compact.
This is an infinitely solvable problem.
Convene businesses around a large, ambitious goal.
It's the right thing for our business. It's the right thing for society.
Moving business forward faster.
Forward Faster will help us all together as a community to drive progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. It's time to move forward faster.
Welcome to the podcast, Moving Business Forward Faster, your insight into how businesses are shaping a sustainable future. In a world where progress is imperative, we confront a sobering truth. At our current pace, it'll take more than a century and a half to bridge the gap of gender equality in economic empowerment and participation. This staggering timeline is not just a call to action. When women thrive, economies expand, communities prosper, and businesses not only grow, they lead. So with us today is one of the company leaders on one of the Forward Faster campaign areas of gender equality, Mrs. Florence Boulte, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Chalhoub Group. Florence, so nice to have you here with us today. Please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about what you do at Chalhoub Group.
Thank you, Lina. So Florence Bulte, I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Chalhoub Group. Chalhoub Group is a family business. We are distributors and retailers of luxury brands in the Middle East. We operate in 8 countries, and we've been actually in business for over 70 years. We employ 15,000 people. And sustainability, because we are a family business, has always been at the heart of everything that we do. It's really in our DNA. So we started to have employee engagement strategy in 2009, and then developed a strong sustainability strategy since 2014.
The Chalhoub Group is known for its commitment to corporate social responsibility in the UAE and in the 8 geographies that you operate in. In the UAE specifically, you've received the CSR label from the Dubai Chamber of Commerce. Can you share with us how these CSR initiatives align with the group's overall business objectives and values? How is it entrenched in the corporate culture?
Well, and the trigger point was really in 2014 when we became a member of the United Nations Global Compact, because with this commitment, we had to report, every year on our sustainability performance and progress. So from there, we made sure we started with a materiality study aligned with our business, objectives and imperatives. And we came up with 3 main areas of focus: people, planet, and partner. And that's how we shaped the sustainability strategy aligned with our business strategy. So if I may develop a bit more on the 3 pillars. So starting with environment, we have a commitment to pave the way to net zero by 2040. So we had calculated our scope baseline in 2021, had our midterm targets validated, and next year we're going to present our full journey, full roadmap to 2040 commitment. We also have a focus on circularity in our operations and in our business models. When it comes to partners, we want to make sure we make business with people who are aligned and share the same values of business integrity, transparency that we have. So we created 4 years ago sustainability supplier scorecard based on the 10 principles of the United Nations, and we are assessing our suppliers on this scorecard, organizing webinars, because we want it also to be a dialogue and a way to create awareness amongst our supply chain. And last but not least, when it comes to people, we have we want to make sure we operate, with these 15,000 people. We have more than 130 nationalities, so we want to make sure we're building an environment which is inclusive. So we have a focus on gender parity and inclusion of people with determination, but we also look at making sure we hire nationals in our workforce, which is very important in the Gulf countries. We want also to make sure we build a strong diversity, equity, and inclusion culture. And the last point I would say is a focus on health and wellness.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, you've been part of the UN Global Compact community since 2014, but not just part of the community. Your group president sits on the board locally and in the UAE chapter and in our global board, and we learn a lot from the best practices of Shalhoub Group. In specific, I'd like to highlight that I appreciate that you don't just think about within the four walls of the workplace, but thinking of the supply chain. That's something that we always try to emphasize within our work at the UN Global Compact, and specifically in the gender programming. We, as signatories to the Women's Empowerment Principles, you're aware, we not just discuss the gender dimensions in the workplace, but looking at the supply chain and how we can partner with our suppliers to really advance their business practices. So really appreciate the advanced practices that you're leading on locally and globally. So the next question is, how does this affiliation with the UN Global Compact, how has it influenced company policies, especially concerning gender equality and women's economic inclusion and empowerment?
Well, a great deal, I have to say. So beside the fact that we are a member of UNGC, we also signed the Women Empowerment Principle in 2017. And for us, it was an amazing, way to have guidance. So we took the gap analysis tool, which also highlights, our strengths and our weaknesses. And since then, we've been working on our weaknesses year on year. Interesting thing is, I would say, making sure also the way we work on it, diversity and inclusion is not part of sustainability, or it's not part of, let's say, HR. We've always been working on it on a cross-functional way, in a cross-functional way. So we make sure to include our people partner, our talent acquisition, our sustainability team, the operations. So I would say first we made sure, taking this gap analysis, that we had our policies right, because as a family business we developed in an organic way, so we made sure we had all the right policies in place. Then reviewed our processes, like recruitment processes, making sure we were following, the policies which were inclusive, and so that's what we started to do first, and then we went into more practical way of assessing how we were doing in diversity, how we were measuring inclusiveness, inclusivity, etc. So it's really helped us, and we still have a lot of things to do, I have to say. But I think last year, Shalhoub Group was actually identified as the third best place to work for women as a group in the Middle East. So we have improved a great deal since 2017. But you were talking, for example, about the supply chain, and we know that's something we need still to work on moving forward. So for us, it's been an amazing tool to have guidance.
It's wonderful. So happy to hear that. And I just want to underscore something that you mentioned is measuring your progress. I think the tool it's fantastic. It's free. It's anonymous, and it's a wonderful tool for any company to utilize to really understand, establish a baseline of where we're at today, because it is a journey. Nobody's perfect. Not one company is perfect in their gender equality performance, and so it's about being humble and understanding where the gaps lie, and beginning to measure, because we don't know what we don't measure, right? So it's fantastic to hear.
And to this point, when you run a business, it's you're part of an ecosystem. So you have to go with the evolution of the markets, and so even if you have built something in the past, things are evolving, changing. So you always have to adapt, and that's how we always make sure we have this baseline and take corrective action when needed. But I would say evolution is part of the game, and adaptation is always required.
Yeah, absolutely. So in light of our discussion on gender equality and its impact on economic growth, could you share specific measures that Chalhoub Group has taken or plans to ensure equal representation, participation, and leadership of women by 2030 at all levels of the company?
So I discussed a bit the policies. So that's our backbone, and that helped us a great deal. What we put in place, which is working well, is diversity and inclusion dashboards. So we launched them, I think, 2 years ago. So first we took an assessment of where we were at, because we have a lot of business unit, 15,000 people operating in 8 countries. As you can imagine, it's a bit complex to follow up what's happening in all divisions. So we did a complete assessment, built some dashboards, and these dashboards are actually live. Like they're digitalized, and our people partner and our managers can have access to them, and it's part actually of the review. So we know exactly when it comes to nationality, genders, where we are at, where we are, on track, not off track, and take, corrective action. So this dashboard is an amazing tool to track and monitor our performance when it comes to diversity. And making sure that also education is a big point. Making sure that everyone, managers in operations, in our commercial business unit, our talent acquisition, etc., are educated about diversity and inclusion. So we have, for example, the Chalhoub the Chalhoub University, which is a platform where you have some trainings available for everyone on this subject matter. So it's really also creating a culture of diversity and inclusion, creating the right environment to be inclusive, and having this tool to concretely measure what we do.
So this morning we had a session at Chalhoub Group on male allyship in the world of work, I guess you can say. And Mr. Patrick Chalhoub mentioned a very, very inspiring number that when they expanded in Saudi Arabia, it was his imperative as the leader of the organization to have women in the workforce, although it was very difficult from a legal perspective. But he took the extra step, and he got the necessary approval and built the enabling physical workspace to have one woman work in Chalhoub Group. This was in 1999. In 2023, today, he said that over 70% of the workforce, so about 2,800, are women.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I would mention another example. In 2017, we wanted to recruit women in our warehouses in the UAE, and at the beginning, even internally, everyone was surprised and said, but, women wouldn't want to do this, to have this position. But then we just opened up, and recruited and looked in the right direction. And now we have over 30 women working in our warehouses. So just take a little bit of, first step, changing the mindset is extremely important. Show creativity, show that it's possible, taking this extra step, fight for it, and then the rest follows. So that's the steps we've been taking. And when you were talking also about at all levels of the companies, 31% of our workforce in senior leadership are women. So that's also something we are working on. So 2 years ago, we've been creating a Women in Leadership program. We are now reached the second cohort of, and this is really preparing women for senior position role to create a pipeline of senior leaders who are coming really from the company, from the group, instead of recruiting outside. And
it's wonderful to hear that you're investing in the talent pipeline and,
yes.
and investing internally. I think we talk a lot about hiring women leaders for executive positions and for board positions, of course, but we don't really pay enough attention to the talent pipeline that we should be building. So I look forward to maybe coming back on this podcast in less than 7 years, and hopefully you'll be reporting on 50-50 women's leadership. So with the global discourse on equal pay gaining momentum, what steps is Chalhoub Group taking to ensure equal pay for work of equal value is applied within your company?
Well, so we've been putting in place a pay parity real-time dashboard. So at any time you can see, what's their salary status, the promotion, the mobility, the retention, etc. What we do also is to make sure every year we have an assessment, a pay parity assessment, and we take corrective action when it needs to be. So this allowed us to we still have a minimum pay gap, which is below 5% right now, but we're still working on it. So as you were saying, it's a journey, and the idea is really to come at parity. And I would say the third thing that we've been doing, which is also helping, is that the champion of who are working in remuneration, etc. I've got KPIs as well on equity and fairness. So it's also from that point of view, incentivize them to really look at it from fairness and equity point of view. But again, like I was saying, for the diversity and equity and inclusion dashboard, this real-time pay parity dashboard is really giving us a great vision of what's happening at any point of time.
Thank you. What challenges have you encountered as well in this area? What is the biggest barrier, maybe I can ask, to reach from you to reach less than 5%, which, by the way, the global average is 20%, so 5% is a wonderful feat. But in order for you to reach a 0% gap, what is the biggest barrier today?
I would say, because you have to manage your workforce as it is. So it's not like you can, change everything from day to night. So you need to, the change have to be sometimes operated slowly. So I think that's what's taking time. But with these tools in place, it's always, as I was saying, because it's an evolving environment. So you might have some spikes of imbalance, but then it gets corrected. So I think now we are nearly there. We just need to make the few changes which we identified. But I guess it's more a question of timeline than anything else. So with this tool in place, I think we can reach a parity fairly quickly.
Best of luck. Chalhoub Group has a diverse portfolio of luxury brands and operates across several countries. Can you discuss how the group's approach to gender equality in the workplace varies across these different cultures and business sectors specifically? And what best practices have you identified in fostering inclusive growth?
Honestly, so what I was saying, like we always worked on diversity, equity, inclusion in a cross-functional way, and this really helped. So I was mentioning HR, people, partner, talent acquisition, sustainability, but we also involve people from the different countries, different country managers. So that's allowed us to have a very good view of what's happening in all the countries. And most recently, actually, this year, 2023, diversity, equity, and inclusion was one of our group priority. And we created a task force, again, with people from commercial, operation, HR, sustainability, and we divided the work into streams. So people in charge of assessing what was happening, creating the dashboard, specifically monitoring where we had weaknesses. Then a stream on culture, because as I was saying, it's good to take steps, but you have to also evolve the mindset around it. We relooked also at the policies and the process, because again, it's evolving, so you cannot do it once and think, okay, it's okay for the next 10 years. No, you have to always come back to it. And specific focus on gender parity and inclusion of people of disabilities, which is extremely important in the region. So to recap, having this cross-functional task force have really allowed us to make sure we were balanced and we had the same approach in all the countries we are operating in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been wonderful learning about Shalhoub Group's insights on how to really move the needle on advancing gender equality and parity more generally. In particular, I'd like to highlight that it's clear that leadership has, has not just bought in, but I think are spearheading this cause. If you talked about dashboards, you talked about accountability, you talked about inclusion, and I see the approach that you're taking is a lot more holistic. It's not just about addressing equal pay or having more women in leadership positions. It's looking at the whole environment that needs to be built, that needs to be cultivated to have women represented more in leadership positions. So I commend you for all of the hard work. I know it's it's a challenge, but it's a noble, yes, it is a journey and it's a noble one. So I appreciate the time that you've taken with us today to share your wonderful insights. Thank you so much, Florence. This was an enlightening conversation with you. My name is Lina Al-Qaddoumi, and you just listened to the podcast, Moving Business Forward Faster.
Thank you for listening to Moving Business Forward Faster, a podcast by the United Nations Global Compact. To learn more about Forward Faster, visit forwardfaster.unglobalcompact.org.